Welcome back. In this video, part 3, we will move on to the next set of topics, changing countrysides and towns and trade. These units help us understand how rural life, agriculture and economic activities evolved and how urban centers and trade networks developed over time. Let us begin our discussion with a clear and exam-focused approach. The Unit 5, a changing countryside, under which we are going to study 5.1 popular perception of kings. What did people think about their rulers? Not much information is available about the people's thought in the inscriptions because the inscriptions were mainly reflecting the king's achievements and not people's feelings. And ordinary people rarely wrote about their lives because many of them were mostly illiterate. Their thoughts and sufferings were not officially recorded. Historians used stories to understand public opinion. Stories from Jatakas and Panchatantra were studied. These were oral tales later written down. Jatakas, those books were written in Pali, a language that was used in Buddhist texts, written around the middle of the first millennium CE. Now let's move on to the next point. Gandatindu Jataka, that means people suffering. The story describes a wicked king, wicked, cruel, and unjust. People who suffered included old men and women, cultivators, herders, village children, even animals. The king disguised himself to know public opinion. Disguised, that means changing appearance to hide his identity. People blamed the king for their misery, attacked by robbers at night, harassed by tax collectors during the day. That was the feelings of the people. So what happened? What was the result of oppression? People left their village. They escaped into forest to survive. Okay, in that case, what were the relationship between the king and the subjects? Relationship was often strained. Why? Kings demanded high taxes to fill royal treasury, and that was the reason the peasants suffered the most. Due to heavy taxes were burdensome, forests became a mean of escapes. To avoid fight, kings tried new ways, increasing agricultural production to meet growing tax demands. Now let's move on to the next topic, 5.2, strategies for increasing production, under which shift to plough agriculture. Plough agriculture expanded from 6th century BCE. It spread mainly in fertile alluvial river valleys, for example, Ganga and Kaveri valleys. Iron tip ploughshare introduced. What are these ploughshare? It's a sharp iron blade of the plough, which helped them to turn a heavy, wet soil, and it worked best in areas with high rainfall. Transplantation of paddy. Paddy cultivation increased sharply. When I say paddy, rice grown in fields. What were the method used? The method used were transplantation. What do you mean by this? Seedlings grow separately and replanted, which help to produce more of yield, but involved back-breaking labor. When I say back-breaking, that means extremely hard physical work. Limitation of iron plough. Iron plough not used everywhere, that is in semi-arid regions where the rainfall is very low, in Punjab and Rajasthan, and it adopted only in the 20th century. What about in hilly and forest regions? Even there it was not used. Northeastern and central India, they used only hoe agriculture. What is this hoe? It is a simple digging tool and it was better used for uneven terrain. Now, irrigation as a strategy. Irrigation increased agricultural output. When I say irrigation, supplying of water through wells, tanks, and sometimes canals. Construction organized by the village communities, powerful individuals like kings. Kings recorded irrigation works in inscriptions. 5.3 Differences in rural society. Unequal benefits of new techniques. Increase in production did not benefit everyone equally, as there were differentiation. When I say differentiation, division into unequal groups, society became more divided. Categories in rural society. Landless agricultural laborers, that is, they worked on others' lands. Small peasants, they owned or cultivated small plots. Large landholders and small and big landholders refer to Gahapati, who were referred as Gahapati, small and big landholders. Now, rise of powerful rural elites. Landholders gained power. Village headman, who is the village headman? He was a very influential person in the village, and their position often hereditary, that is passed in family. Controlled land and labor. Now, Tamil society. What does this Tamil Sangam, that is the Sangam society, gives us details. Vellalar, that means large landowners. Uravar, plowman or cultivator. Adimai, slaves. There were differences based on access to land, control over labor, use of new technologies. Control over land became more important, and that was discussed in legal text. Now let's move on to the next topic, land grants and new rural elites. Practice of land grants began from early centuries CE, recorded mostly in inscriptions, stone inscriptions, mostly copper plates, that is given to the recipient as proof. Nature of land grants, usually granted to Brahmanas and to the religious institutions, and languages that were used mostly Sanskrit, later Sanskrit plus local languages. When I say local languages, that means Tamil or Telugu. Case of Prabhavati Gupta. Who was she? She was the daughter of Chandragupta II, married into the Vakataka dynasty. Legal text said women should not own land, but inscription shows Prabhavati owned and granted land. Possible reason? She was a queen. That was an exceptional case. Laws were not strictly followed everywhere. Now the next point, impact on rural populations. So we know that villages had brahmanas, peasants, other service groups, and people had to obey the new landholder, pay dues and produce. Historical debate on land grants. There were two views. One view, land grants helped expand agriculture. Another view, land grants showed weakening royal power. Kings tried to gain support of Samantas. King projected themselves as powerful supermen. The last point of this topic, groups outside state control. Some groups were beyond official control. Fisherfolk, hunter-gatherers, shifting cultivators, mobile artisans, and pastoralists. These groups left very few written records. Moving on to the next unit, towns and trade, under which we are going to study the topic called as new cities. From 6th century BCE, many urban centers developed in different parts of the Indian subcontinent. Many of these towns were capitals of Mahajanapadas. Almost all major towns were located along routes of communication, which helped in trade, administration and movement of people. Pataliputra developed on riverine routes. That means routes along rivers, especially the Ganga. Ujjaini grew along land routes connecting north and southern part of India. Puhar was located near the coast from where sea routes began. Cities like Mathura became important centers of commercial, cultural and political activities. Topic under town and trade is 6.2 urban population, elites and craft person. Kings and ruling elites lived in cities that were protected by walls. Large scale excavations are difficult because modern settlements still exist on these sites. Archaeologists have found many artifacts such as northern black polished ware, that means fine, shiny pottery used by rich people. And they also found ornaments, tools, weapons, vessels, and figurines. These objects are made from gold, silver, copper, bronze, ivory, glass, shell, and terracotta. From the 2nd century BCE, votive inscriptions appear in towns. What do you mean by this word votive inscription? It, it was a short inscriptions recording donations. That is what we call it as votive inscriptions. These inscriptions mention name of donors, sometimes their occupations. Townspeople included washermen, weavers, scribes, carpenters, potters, goldsmiths, blacksmiths, officials, religious teachers, merchants, and kings. Guild were organized of craft producers and merchants. What are these guild? Association of artisans or merchants. That is what we call it as guild. Now, this guild procured raw materials, they regulated production, they marketed finished goods. Craftsperson used iron tools to meet the demand of wealthy urban elites. That is about 6.2 urban population, elites, and craftsperson. Let's move on to the next topic 6.3 trade in the subcontinent and beyond. From the 6th century BCE, trade routes spread across the subcontinent. Land and river routes connected different regions of India. Overland routes extended to Central Asia. Sea routes connected India to East and North Africa, West Asia, Southeast Asia, and China. Rulers tried to control trade routes, often by offering protection in return for payment. People involved in trade included peddlers. Peddlers, they are the small traders traveling on foot. Merchants, they traveled in caravans using bullock carts and pack animals. Seafarers, they traveled by sea. It's risky but profitable. Rich merchants were called Masattuvan in Tamil, Setis or Satahavahas in Prakrit. Goods traded included salt, grain, cloth, metal ores and finished goods, stone, timber, medicinal plants, pepper, textiles were highly demanded in the Roman Empire. These goods were transported across the Arabian Sea to the Mediterranean. And one more point that I wanted to add here is pepper, textiles, and medicinal plants were highly demanded in the Roman Empire. We have come to the last topic of this unit, coins and kings. Trade was facilitated by the use of coins. Punch-marked coins made of silver and copper were the earliest coins. These coins were found across the subcontinent. Numismatists, who were they? They were the scholars who studied coins to understand trade and economy. Symbols on punch-marked coins suggest they were issued by kings, including Mauryas, merchants, and bankers. The Indo-Greeks were the first to issue coins with names and images of rulers. The Kushanas issued large quantities of gold coins. Kushana coins were similar in weight to Roman and Parthian coins, showing strong trade links. Roman coin hoards found in southern part of India prove active overseas trade. Yadayas, a tribal republic, issued many copper coins showing economic activity. Gupta rulers issued high purity gold coins that supported long distance trade. From the 6th century CE, gold coins finds declined. Historians debate whether this indicates economic crisis due to decline of Roman trade or continued trade with fewer hoarded coins and more circulations. We have now completed units 5 and 6. A changing countryside and towns and trade. I have provided important 8-mark questions from each unit. Please revise these questions and try to answer them on your own for better exam preparation. Thank you.